aspirational hero. Move that as move that aspirational move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that aspirational move that as move that aspirational goal. So the aspirational heroes need to be there. They need to be pure 100% from the beginning. They need to be at that unobtainable goal of perfection and good and hopeful and inspirational and all of that. Move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that aspirational. Stop deconstructing heroes. Aspirational are cathartic motivational. Move that as move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that aspirational move that as move that as move that as to aspire.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And, old channel members will recognize that. Old channel members will recognize that as another great piece by, of course, Stephen Cruz, who, I wonder what that guy is. He hasn't seen him around in a while. But, yeah, he sent me that audio where he, of course, cut together. It was a talk I gave about aspirational heroes, which, of course, he cut together. Yeah. There's a hiss to the sound. Huh. Okay. Let me play with some cables here for a second, guys. My dear sound engraver took my my Focusrite the other day to try it with some stuff on her channel, and I plugged it back in. I don't know. Maybe there's an issue, but I'm gonna mute myself and then I'll try this, and then she'll let me know. You guys let me know in the chat though if you hear a hiss. So I'll mute for a second. Okay, still a hiss. I don't know if my dear sound engraver, if you played with any of the controls in terms of gain or whatever, but you guys just let me know. Thank you, Studio Super, for a $1.99 super chat. Yes, move that aspirational. That's right. All right, I'm gonna turn camera off for a second, and then we'll be right back. So hang on. Okay, my my sound specialist wife has switched something on the Scarlett thing here. Let me see if that's working. Still there. All right. Might not be able to do a stream tonight, guys. Hang on. It's let me mute it one more time and figure out what's going on. Okay, we are going to try that and see if it works. No, it was an echo cancellation. Thanks for that thought there, Studio 96. But we may have fixed. All right. Yep. I can turn the gain down now. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that's good. You let me know how that sounds, guys. Too loud, too soft, whatever. And back to the cam, back to the party. Okay. Well, that was fun. That won't be a problem anymore, though, because yeah, these little Focusrite, like the Phantom Power, I forget the word that they're called, where the mic goes into, and it goes in the computer, and the mixes and all that mixer, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But I've been using an old one of Sound Engravers, and the one that she was using actually kind of died. It's been having all kind of trouble with her computer. So she used mine for a bit to see if it would work, but then she ended up buying a new one herself. So we're back in business now. Thanks for being patient. I'll cut a nice video out of this anyway, so people won't have to watch. Maybe I'll put in the chat when this live stream processes that go to the such and such minute mark. Skip all this, but thanks for being patient, folks. Hopefully we got a few people hanging out with us. Yeah, good. Let me start by welcoming the chat there before we get into our topic there. But CHM was actually here last night, as well as Ghost Planet Inc. Good to see you there. Darth Enigma, Nathaniel Zalozball, David Francisco, Studio 96 Films, as I said. Stunning and Brave Megatron, good to see you there. Matthew Flynn, Private Eye, Imaginative Hobbyist, all the usual characters. Of course, Samuel Proctor, channel member. Thank you there. There is no culture war. And Bossing Say. Say that right. Here we are safe. Here we are free. What are you talking about? Where do you think the refugees come from? Nice. Yeah, so now, Andre Hernandez, good to see you there too. Looking to see if Slav popped in at all. Final Fantasy fan, Omega. Thank you. Yeah, that intro, as I was saying, it's an old video. Some of my old channel members or channel subscribers will recognize it. It's a Stephen Cruz. He's a musician, and he used to be around here on YouTube all the time. He followed all of me, Big Al, and everybody. And he got busy with work for a while, and I haven't seen him in forever. But he actually is the one that did the music from my Consume Heroes Responsibly intro too. And he would send me these. He would just like clip out, speeches from my videos or whatever, and he would put them together in these really cool music music files, and then I would put the images to it and everything. So I found that one. I was like, yeah, let's change it up a little bit. I'm not leaving the Consume Stories responsibly by any means, but there's that one. Then there was a few that highlight Big Al, saying really out of context things and whatnot that were fun. So yeah, change it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about the topic today. I actually saw this on a Mike Zero video at first, and I don't know a lot about Mike Zero. I don't watch his videos a lot, but I understand that you're supposed to take a lot of what he says with a bit of a grain of salt or something. I know he deals in rumors and whatnot, but he was talking about a statement that Bob Iger gave in response to the backlash to the Pirates of the Caribbean 6, how they're going to, remake it all with females and really, it's going to be super diverse and all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't able to find that statement myself on Google anywhere, but really the things he was saying, it's not out of character. Bob Iger very well easily could have said this. And if he hasn't said it, I've been told this nonsense a ton by other, ideologues who try to, gaslight you into believing there's no culture war. Well, we're not doing any, that kind of thing. Of course, there was the video that had surfaced of Bob Iger talking to Disney employees, a while ago back in the day about how they want to push this agenda. They want to change things. They want to push this stuff into films and into their properties. But part of this, statement, because there's a rightful backlash against it, you don't screw around with Pirates of the Caribbean. If Johnny Depp's not coming back, then just don't do it. Stop it. Especially don't do it when you're trying to push your DEI agenda in there. And his statement was basically to the effect of like, look, hey, we're just trying to make things more diverse. We're just trying to, make things more equitable, more inclusive, and there's no agenda here. There's no culture war. Hey, by saying there's a culture war, you guys are actually starting a culture war. No one here is trying to start a culture war. We're just trying to be more diverse and inclusive. And you believe in diversity and inclusivity, don't you? And they try to, there's a couple of things that are so infuriating about that tactic. First of all, it's gaslighting. It's pretending that we're not changing your properties. We're not changing your franchises. You're just turning into a grumpy old racist KKK member. If that's what you think, you don't want to be one of those people, do you? Like Clark Gregg talk about, oh, you just want to be one of those dinosaurs wandering towards the tar pits. You're so sad that you just won't get with the new diverse, thing. And this is garbage. That's gaslighting. They're not just creating more opportunity for people. That is not what they're doing. They are fundamentally changing the fabric of our franchises, fundamentally from ground up. You can look at movies from the early, right up to the early teens. You still had quality storytelling. I mean, this writing was on the wall to be, to the certain extent, but you still had quality storytelling, quality scripts. You still had plenty of diversity. I mean, diversity, they act like diversity wasn't there before, which is nonsense. We had no strong female characters until Carol Danvers came along. This nonsense. It was all there. They are pushing an ideology. They're not creating more opportunity. They're pushing an ideology. And it's the stories are suffering for it. Horribly, the stories are suffering for it. To the point where they're not fun to watch anymore. No one appreciates these characters. No one enjoys these films, these shows, or whatever. Their numbers are dying, and they're trying everything they can to bully people into getting back on board with them, bullying people into shut up, go support it, go support the Disney, go support the woke nonsense. And just pretend that everything's fine. Everything's fine here. Everything's fine. Now, of course, it's not. I mean, and this has been a tactic for a long time. I mean, it used to be, I would get pilloried, straight up pilloried, calling out a culture war. There's no culture war. You're so stupid. They can't really do that anymore. They can't take quite that ridicule level of tactic because enough people know about it. Enough people know this is very much a thing. You guys are trying to go to war with us over these franchises and whatnot. And they really can't ridicule you so much anymore. So they try to be more subtle with their manipulation and gaslighting. Look, by saying there's a culture war, you're the one starting a culture war. And there's a very subtle threat in there. What they do, so they gaslight you, and then they start weaponizing the language. They take those terms, and this is nothing new either for the ideologues. Look, I mean, don't you stand for diversity and equity and inclusion? I mean, these are good things, right? Are you going to tell me you're not for diversity and inclusivity? Okay, then. They bully you. And the threat implied there is, well, if you say that you're against this, that's going to mean you're a Nazi. And you know what we do with those Nazis? We punch those, we cancel them. We ruin everything about their lives, It's a threat. They threaten you. It's implied at the very least. Sometimes it's quite explicit. And I think more of us need to stand up and say, yeah, I am against diversity. In the way that you're contextualizing it, 100%. I'm against diversity the way you think about diversity. I'm against inclusivity the way you're presenting inclusivity, 100%. And we need to just throw that back up in their faces and act like, they're not going to make us afraid by defining terms. They define the playing field. They define the battle, and then convince you that there is no battle, and convince you to lay down and throw down your arms, and everything's fine. You can't fight on the field that they have already established or they've already defined. And by fighting, of course, I'm meaning figuratively speaking, culture war stuff, not any kind of violence or whatever, obviously. But as I said, diversity wasn't that big of an issue. It wasn't. This is, academia coming in with their nonsense. This is, everybody, we got to problematize everything. Oh, this and that. Well, yeah, we had that female hero, but oh, her costume was just too tight. Oh, it's so problematic. Male gaze. Oh, we need this now. We need that now. And as a result, you get franchises today are incarnations from these franchises, which are just devoid of every bit of soul. If you need any evidence for that, just look at the recent X-Men 97 that was released. 96, 97, you know me, numbers. But ridiculous. They're just trying to pretend that we're taking this property that came out in the 90s, which is so beloved, and we're going to tell new stories within that property. No, you're not. So-and-so's non-binary now. Just look at, and there people have shown these images. Just look at images of Rogue from the 90s show and the new Rogue. I mean, they are, it's par for the course. Let's remove every bit of idealization from these forms. That's not diversity or inclusivity. That's, we are uncomfortable. They might as well be like, Jimmy Swaggart prayer warriors or something, trying to come in and censor anything that dares might look suggestive. I mean, and I say that on purpose because they would hate that, because that's what they think they're not. No, we're not you evil Christian right people. No, you might as well be. You might as well be extremist. You're the people that cancel dancing in the town in Footloose. I mean, that's what the woke have become. They are that ridiculous with their censorship, with their tactics. They've become the thing they hate. They fought against evil Christianity for so long that and they've misunderstood, what actual Christianity is and everything, that they have become all of the tactics that they argued against or thought that, the evil religious right was censoring and whatnot. That's what they're doing here. And they're trying to pretend and trying to tell you that's not what we're doing. No. Hey, what's wrong with Morph being non-binary? The very fact that you even try to shove that stupid modern word, which is meaningless. Okay, non-binary does not mean anything. There's no such thing as a non-binary person. All right, people are born male or female. It's dependent on their chromosomes. It's a fact. It's a fact. If you are not very if you're not really in line with what people have sort of culturally piled on to the meaning of being a man or the meaning of being a woman, whatever, that's you. Doesn't mean you need to be, well, now I'm non-binary. No, you're still a man or a woman. You're just you, stop it. But, everything needs to be a label. Everything needs to be attributed its victim points on the chart for this intersectional nonsense. And everybody needs to be oppressed. My oppression, I need to be oppressed. And it's all the evil, straight, heteronormative white man's fault, There was well, let me get the super chat first. Thank you, Studio Super. Appreciate the super chat. Said, so that's why you had that intro tonight, to mourn the loss of Rogue's aspirational features. Hey, Rogue should have made a appearance in that. That's for sure. But no, I mean, look at Rogue's example. Rogue was never... The stories of the X-Men, they were kids. They were safe for kids. They never sexualized Rogue. She was idealized, crazy idealized. That costume was skin tight. And yeah, you can maybe screenshot some of her poses and it looks a little sex kittenish or whatever. But in context of the cartoon, you're watching it, there's nothing sexual going on. She's just like getting up off the ground after she's been knocked down in a fight or something like that. That was par for the course. Cartoons in the 80s and 90s, they idealized the forms. I remember it was one... This happened even in the 80s, before the 90s. They would, if a person was wearing a skin tight suit, I think it might have been Firestar in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like the first two seasons, if Firestar turned around, you would see the line of the crack in her rear. Not because it's trying to show you her butt or anything, but it looks weird. It looks flat. It's a 2D art form, and it looks flat if it's just a one swatch of yellow. It's an animated cartoon, so they can't really have the shadings and the the more realistic tone or shading and light and everything. So they would draw like a little line around the rear, and that was fine. They did it with Spider-Man 2, for crying out loud. And it wasn't the male gaze, it wasn't all, but you had these stupid back then you probably even had more the moralizing censorship as well. But today you'd have this, the woke coming in and wringing their hands over something that they want to censor and they want to stop because they think it means this or whatever. It's nonsense. It's utter nonsense. The superheroes came from the visual media. So even television and movies, now we're moving. We're no longer a static picture. But that's where these archetypes came from. That's where these archetypes came from to prominence in static visual mediums. And even in the static visual mediums, I've talked about this before, how whether, we're talking about comic books, but you can trace those all the way back to uh, paintings on mythological, vases or whatever, or the Parthenon and so forth, mythological structures, and all the way back to cave paintings. And one cool thing about all of those incarnations was that, cave paintings back in the day, they think that a lot of these paintings were about the hunt or about certain rituals that were important to tribes, and they were in the middle of a cave. They didn't have flashlights to go in there with, so they had a torch. They had this flickering light going into the cave. In a lot of instances, maybe it was part of some sort of rite of passage ritual, where maybe they were, chewing some, sensory enhancing or affecting root or something like that, but they would go into these caves with that flickering torch, and you'd see these paintings on the wall. It's an uneven canvas, right? It's a rock wall, the painting on there and the pigmentation. So the flickering light on the wall and everything. So there was a sense of movement to these images. You can trace that with the other media, like the vase paintings, Greek vase paintings, whenever it's circular, it can be, spun around and whatnot. But even comic books, when they were first created or first printed back in the day, they were printed with that. I forget the name of the process, but you only had, like 3 or 4 colors that they would print in. And it was almost like pointillism, that dot matrix kind of thing that's the idea anyway. Or if you wanted to create this color, you had to combine these primary colors in a way, to evoke the image of that color. So if you take the earliest comic books and the way they were printed, and you really magnify them, you'll see the bunch of different little separate colors, which, panning back, makes the image of green or so forth. And a lot of brain scientists say that when you look at that, there is a sense of movement. Your brain, especially our brains today, won't really catch that looking at a comic book, even if it was one printed like that back in the day. But back in the day, you can imagine these kids, getting these comic books, these colorful heroes that have all of the visceral appeal of the Greek gods and different mythological characters before them. That's the kinds of stories that are being told. That's the kind of archetypes these characters embody. And then you pick up a comic like that with that sort of, even if it's subconscious, that sense of movement. There's something, just appealing about that. This is long before every kid had a tablet or an iPad or whatever. So that's appealing to them. Now, then, of course, television, your radio television developed. And these characters, we need to see that movement. We want to see the idealized forms. Yes, you can take it in a sexual way. Of course you can. Anything can be made a sexual manner today. I mean, that's just the nature of humanity, but that doesn't mean that there are that this is something we need to change from the ground up or whatever. I mean, those designs in the X-Men 97 are just straight up ugly. I mean, look at any of those characters and take a screenshot from the original to the ones they're doing now, and they're just butt ugly to look at. It's like you've just sucked out all the fun and the joy and the idealization of these characters. And that's what's great about them. It's not just their physical design, that they're going to be tempered. All the stories are going to change. We've got to have stories about how this character is like this, and then this character is like this. We've got to bring all of our woke ideologies into it. And apparently, I don't know, I guess they're kind of worried about the backlash on that. Let me get to the super chat, and then I'll finish up my point there. Studio Super, thank you so much there. So they say sexualization is bad, yet cheer when gals do it to themselves, dressing skimpy in public or OnlyFans. Exactly. They say it's different because ladies choose it. I don't. It doesn't matter. It has the same result. Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason to what they say. It's basically as if a white heteronormative male is creating it or saying it, it's evil. That's basically the point behind it. That's the key to all of their philosophies there. But here's the thing. We talk about voting with our wallet, and we get excited when ratings go down or movies don't do that well. And that's good. That's good. These are steps along the right path. But Disney doesn't care. If Disney really wanted to turn things around and really wanted to make a lot of money and get back on top, I mean, they're just plummeting and plummeting and plummeting. But between Bob Iger and even the shareholders that keep him in power, they are doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on the agenda. They are trying to, rather than change something, rather than give you, the public, what you want and try to make money again through that interaction, that exchange. And that's the way mythology has always operated in these fictional entertainment industry contexts, right? Because as soon as we became, as I said before, a society of a bunch of different shared religions and shared, worldviews and whatnot, we still needed some kind of shared value system so that we could operate as a society, so that we could, be safe, and we could know that if someone did something wrong, attacked somebody, stole from somebody, or whatever, society itself would say that's wrong. Here's our laws, here's our sanctions against that. And in mythology, the history of man, mythology, our shared stories have always been the way to hand down or propagate that sense of a shared valued system. Okay, so since we're societies now that no longer have a shared religion where everybody is the one official religion of the society anymore, or worldview or anything like that, well, then we still need those stories somehow, and they became our fictional stories. We understood them to be fiction. So it started out as folklore. Then with the entertainment industry, it started out as an entertainment industry. And surprisingly, it still operated just fine. Because as I've said before, there was always even if it was kind of slow to happen, there was always a listening to the audience. So you look at a lot of the characters that really took in such a strict and strong place in our cultural mindset. Superman, for example, I've talked about it before, Batman as well. But the original Superman that came out in that first comic book is very different from the Superman we know of as the iconic Superman that stands for truth, justice, and the American way. All the DNA was still there in the character. He didn't, it's not like a night and day kind of thing, but he didn't fly. He was a little bit more of a tricksterish, almost like a Spider-Man like, kind of toying with the villains that he was, fighting. He even used his power a little bit to kind of intimidate, some of the people, not in a bad way, but it's just a very different character. But the appeal of the character was still there. The visceral appeal of the character was still there. And as it became more popular, especially as it grew into mediums like radio, different things happened. We need, how do you have the character leap? Let's just let him fly. It's just easier if he flies, so then flight became a thing. And as he became more pervasive to be out to, across like television and radio, now we're really broadcasting to all members of the family. It's not just kids can hide there and read their little story. So we need to make sure that certain values are safe and so forth. And it just kind of organically happened. Superman became the bastion of heroism, of iconic aspirational heroism. The same thing with Batman. I mean, yeah, he was a pulp hero in those first comics that were published. Again, the DNA of the character was there, but yeah, he had a gun like in one of the first comics. But he became something more. Pulp was a subculture around pulp. Pulp was not seen as safe, for kids, exactly. So Batman was formed into this great, wonderful thing. And Batman's a great example because he didn't become Mickey Mouse. He became still the Dark Knight, and dark, and he's got that word dark in him. He is a bat, someone who tries to terrorize the criminals who are trying to terrorize the people. And yet he's a knight, Knight, and he's chivalrous, and he has all of that aspirational heroism. And it was a great thing to see the character develop like that. So that kind of listening back and forth from the entertainment industry and the people and the audience, that was still there, and it was there for a long time. And it was really up into the 2000s that I think it really started to fall apart. And you can point to different dates or different movements, depending on what medium you're talking about. But now it's so far to the point where Disney, as I've said, in particular, other companies too, but Disney does not care what you want. They don't care what you refuse to go buy. They need you to shut up and get on board. They need you to shut up and let them change the culture. They need you to shut up and let them fight a culture war, but don't let them think that you know it's a culture war. No, because then you're starting a culture war. You're an aggressor, Okay, so why is that important? If they are not allowing, if they're not going to listen to you, and if not going to see the movie, at least to the level that we've been doing it right now, doesn't really affect them, right? They don't care. They don't care if Madam Web doesn't do very well. They don't care if their latest Disney Plus series, or the X-Men, doesn't do too well. That's not going to change their tactics at all. Bob Iger will try to pull the wool over your eyes a little bit more. He'll try to gaslight you. and it's not just Bob Iger. I hesitate just to kind of use one person's name because people tend to like to, okay, that's our scapegoat then. If only Kathleen Kennedy was out of there, we could have great Star Wars stories again. Come on, wake up. Stop being so ridiculously naive. So I don't like, so it's, it's, you name the people who are involved, but at the same time, you want to avoid it trying to be just, oh, it's just this one person. And if we could get rid of them, that's nonsense. The cancer is pervasive in the industry. Okay, though. So voting with our wallet to the level or to the extent that we've done thus far clearly isn't working. Okay, we're on the right path. We're on the right path, but it clearly isn't working. So what's hurting us still? I've said it before and I'll say it again. And I'm so thrilled because I've been saying this for years. And I'm so thrilled that more people are starting to speak up and say this now. It's because a culture, a lucrative subculture has grown up around the outrage of these movies. Even if the box office isn't great for a movie, the movie is shoved full force into the public consciousness by the outrage culture. For example, all the little YouTube channels that right up front of the line with their ticket money, they'll go see it. They can't even get off the parking lot before they are recording their reviews of it for you, talking about, oh, it's an outrage, oh, this and that. Or then some of them take the tactic, well, I mean, I'm going to be fair, and there's some things I like about it, but here's where it missed the mark, and they are keeping it relevant. Yes, you need money to survive as a company, but Disney's beyond, Disney's so far beyond the need of money to a certain extent. Like, you'd have to starve them forever to really make them feel it in the profits, because they are driven by their ideology. Relevance, that's their Achilles heel. That's where you can hurt them, is make them irrelevant. And outraging about every little thing they put out, tweeting up a storm, making videos about it, that just helps their relevance. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as bad publicity. All of these outrage channels and outlets are just giving them what they want. Think about it in a different context. Think about it as somebody going into a society and trying to preach the gospel, right? Preach a religion, not just the gospel, any religion. The worst thing for those evangelizers, the worst thing for those missionaries is if people simply ignore them. That's the worst thing that can happen to them in sense of them achieving their goal of getting this message out, trying to preach this religion. If people listen to them and are really outraged about it and it becomes a big scandal, a big controversy, I mean, that's not the perfect response, but that's actually quite good. It's stirring things up. It's relevant. It matters, and it's going to seep into culture, and it's going to change things even with the resistance. I mean, that's just, why can't people understand this? And what really ticks me off about these channels that do this is that they are so insincere. They're so smarmy about it. They pretend that they're fighting the good fight with you. Guys, you stay tuned to me and we'll keep calling out this nonsense. Make sure you click that bell and, click that like and ring that bell. Subscribe, and hey, I've got a Patreon too. And, make sure this, and this, and you and me alone, we will fight this good fight. They are not interested in fighting any kind of fight. They're interested in revenue. They're interested in subscriber counts. They're interested in super chats. They're interested in all of this. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, hey, you make money on YouTube if you keep doing it a certain way, and that's great. But they're insincere. If they really wanted to stop, if they really wanted to change culture, you would make them irrelevant. I mean, that's just, it's obvious now. That's the way to stop the nonsense. If we stop pretending, if we stop giving so much attention, another way to think of it is like a child, a younger brother or a younger sister trying to aggravate, their sibling. And they walk over to get one of their favorite toys and like, oh, look, I'm going to sneeze on your favorite, stuffed bunny or whatever. I'm going to sneeze on it. That gets a rise out of you, like, no, not Mr. Carrot or whatever. I don't know, whatever, don't do that. Well, the more you react to that, the more they're going to really, play with that. Well, it's the same thing, that they are only coming after your franchises because you pay attention to those franchises. They're only putting all their nonsense ideology into the X-Men because you care about the X-Men. Now, here's the thing, though. They can never take away from you, as long as you get the physical media anyway, they can never take away from you the original wonderful 90s X-Men series. You can buy that and watch that over and over and over again. You can tweet about it. You can have little communities. You can have groups about it. They can never take away from you the stuff that's out there that you love. Yeah, but I need new stuff. Oh, but I need new stuff. Oh, but I wanted this, and I hope that would be good. And the new stuff, and that's what betrays some insincerity, I think, in the so-called fans who are supposedly outraged about it. You might be watching this and thinking, yeah, I agree with you, Prof. Why are people even reviewing Madam Web? Come on, could you not see that coming? And again, I'm not talking about people who just have straight up movie review channels. If you are just a movie review channel, you're not here trying to talk about the nonsense and the woke, and you're not talking about the culture war. You're just here to review movies. Then yeah, it makes sense that you would just go see every movie and review every movie. That makes sense. I'm talking about the channels that try to pretend that they're one of us and they're trying to fight with you guys, and we're so mad at Disney for ruining these franchises and blah blah blah. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't just be a news coverage channel and fight the good fight with us, because those two things don't work. They don't work together. If you're really going to fight the culture war, then you would ignore a certain thing. Well, I can't ignore it because that algorithm wouldn't reward my channel then, and then I can't do this and that with the income. And that's where the insincerity comes in. And a lot of people are listening and whether here live or later in a recording and thinking, yeah, you're right, Prof. You're right, Prof. They made way too many. Here's the thing to ask. And you don't have to tell anybody, but you have to ask and be honest with yourself. How many reviews have you looked up of Madam Web? How many reviews have you looked up of the last woke disaster? How many Miss Marvel is a disaster videos have you sought out and watched? They're tabloid. It's tabloid material. This is the Jerry Springer of our age. Oh, but it feels good to sit there and watch how stupid that is. Oh, I gotta, maybe I should even go see the movie to see how stupid that is. So many of the so-called fans who are supposedly outraged about all this nonsense don't really care about the franchises. They don't. They enjoy the outrage culture. They're the audience at a Jerry Springer show. They just want the drama. They just want, that's all they want. And a lot of, and I know I've got a wonderful community, and I'm not speaking to any of you individually. I know I've got great people here in the chat, but let's just be honest. Statistically, a lot of you listening to me right now are just as much a part of the problem as these outrage channels that go through and review and try to be, stay relevant and all that kind of stuff. That's the problem. Shut up. Make them irrelevant. And you can turn around and say, well, isn't making your video right now, Prof? Aren't you talking about it right now? What's the difference? Well, it's a huge difference. First of all, I'm not reviewing Madam Web. I'm not trying to laugh at it and make a big joke about it and make it even interesting. I'm not playing into the outrage culture. I'm calling out the problem that's going on. Yeah, Disney says this, we should read between the lines. Fine, do videos about that. Oh, but that's not going to get that sweet algorithm. That's not going to get those views. That's not going to make your channel grow. They know what they're doing. These channels it's really straight up predatory. It's manipulative. Hey guys, we're fighting the good fight together. Ring that bell for me. This and that. It's predatory. It's they're giving you what they know you want, and you, if you were honest with yourself, would realize you don't care about Superman. You don't care about Star Wars. You don't care about X-Men. You like the way that feels. You like that sweet, sweet drama. Oh, it feels so good going down. You just want to watch Jerry Springer. That's all you really want to do. It's truths that people just can't bring themselves to see. And again, not everybody here, of course. And, if you notice, I'm very careful not to name any individual channel, although we can all think of, 20 different channels right now, if we just try to, that fall into this category. But it's nothing's personal about anybody in specific. I don't even have specific channels in mind when I say this, because it's so pervasive. It's so pervasive. And just because a channel might do this sometimes doesn't mean that they don't produce some good content over here or whatever. But I think we finally, if YouTube was about giving us a voice. YouTube was about a platform where average people, anybody with a cell phone, can just click record and give their thoughts and broadcast it to other people. And that's, that was a nice thing about YouTube. Now it's become a CNN. It's become, you see the channels with their really super slick, cameras, and they're super, not there's anything wrong with having professional equipment, but it's become that polished. It's become that slick, that money making. And it might as well be you're watching some cable news network or whatever. A specific one slanted to your, tastes or whatever, but they might as well be that. It's no longer, in a lot of cases, it's no longer authentic commentary from the people anymore. It's people who decided, hey, if I give you that, you'll throw money at me. And it's so insincere, and it's actually not doing anything for the culture war. It's not changing anything. In fact, it's perpetuating it. Disney wants attention, you're giving them attention, or whatever. All right, let me get some super chats here. Andre Hernandez, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Ugh. You say, have you ever wondered why it's important to actually, you know what? I should probably get in the habit of putting my super chats on the screen. Sound Engraver always does that. She's always so good to do that, and I should get in the habit of doing that. So let me do that here. Andre Hernandez, $5. Thank you. Said, have you ever wondered why it's important to be accurate to Tolkien, but not accurate to the Superman and Batman from the first original versions? Well, that's because that's a really good question. And that's because when the Batman and Superman that we know and love, that most people in culture, that culture embraced, the Batman and Superman that culture came to really embrace, the iconic Batman and Superman, is not the original Batman or Superman that first appeared in those first comics. Like I said, it became that period of listening to the public and seeing what they want and molding, and that formation of the character, which didn't last all that long. It was quick to happen. It was within like the first 5 or so years before they became the iconic characters. And then they lasted and became those characters for decades upon decades until there was mandated editorial change, at these companies. So that's why it's different from, say, a Tolkien. Now, if I think maybe a different hinge on that, if I think what you're trying to ask is, why are people more outraged at people screwing with Tolkien, the iconic Tolkien, than they are with people screwing with the iconic Batman? Maybe that's why too, because there's one author, and it's more clearly. Plus, the screwing with Tolkien is a relatively new phenomenon. Right? Amazon's garbage shows and whatnot. This is like the first stage in people trying to really change Tolkien's wonderful universe, where people have been screwing with Batman and Superman forever, tragically. So some people are a little bit more accepting of it, or are just not really quite realizing the extent of it. But thank you for that. Appreciate it. My dear sweet Sound Engraver said, I've said relevance is their currency for years. Exactly. It's not, if it was losing money, then they'd be changing things pronto. They would have changed things a long time ago. They don't care about that. Owen Lister, thank you very much for $9.99. Says, hey, bruv, because of your review of Graham Nolan's Monster Island, I brought it on Amazon. That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, Owen Lister. Yeah, Monster Island in particular is one that's been out in so many different publications that you don't necessarily have to get the Indiegogo Compass Comics version. But if you're looking for a new copy, you might as well get the Compass Comics version, the current one, because it's that's the imprint that all of these characters in this shared universe is in going forward. If I didn't have such nice hardback covers from the Ominous Press release, I would have gotten the Compass Comics myself. But good. I'm glad and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think when it comes. Finally, appreciate you telling me that, Owen Lister. Thank you. Where was the other? There's another super chat in here. Studio Super, thank you very much for $9.99. Say, in terms of checking out old movies, I saw some clips online from a CGI Beowulf movie. Oh, made in 2007, yeah, or 8. Have you seen it? And if you did, how would you recommend it? I saw the screenplay was by Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I actually thought the story was really kind of cool. It's not, iconic, authentic Beowulf. I thought it was a cool take on it. The movie itself, it might be a different experience watching it on a Blu-ray or DVD or something. So I'd like to try that. Seeing it in the theater, it was one of those 3D shtick kind of movies where like every other scene was a reason for somebody to point something to the camera because it was shot in 3D, and that's the way a lot of people went to see it. So it was a little bit like, come on, can we get to the story? Can we stop, with this? It just felt like more circusy than it did storytelling. But just the experience of seeing it in the theater 3D. But you had Crispin Glover as Grendel. That's inspired casting, and I really like the way they did that. I think it was Angelina Jolie who played Grendel's mother. I've actually got a tie-in comic that Peter David wrote. It was interesting too. But no, I like the principle behind it. Neil Gaiman had done some short stories about Grendel. That was in his American Hero. Not what's it called? His hero story. His Anansi and anyway, I forgot. American Gods. It's in his American Gods universe. He wrote a story. Shadow himself, actually. It's like a novella. It was in one of his short story collections, which was pretty good. And I think he took some ideas from that when he wrote the script for the Beowulf movie. But yeah, I like the story. I thought the story was good. Again, you're talking 2006 or 7. That's the last time I actually saw the movie, 7 or 8 or whatever. So I'm just working from memory. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right, let me see if I missed anything here. Andre Hernandez says, is the prof going to educate us on what YouTube channels we can watch, besides him and his friends, and what channels we want to watch? Hey, I'm just here speaking truth. And if it's uncomfortable, then maybe you need to ask yourself why it's uncomfortable. That's the thing. People get mad when I say this kind of stuff. And I know you're probably just joking there, Andre Hernandez. I think anyway. I don't think you'd have paid me to say that seriously. But people get mad when I do videos like this, and I've been saying this for years. Whenever I cut out one, especially, and put it as a video, this is ridiculous. They get so mad, and it's like, okay, if I wasn't touching a nerve, if there wasn't any truth to what I said, why would you care about what some professor, says to his cell phone on YouTube? Just, screw that guy. Do not recommend channel, and then you go watch all your favorite outrage channels. I mean, if there was no truth to what I said, people wouldn't be so viscerally upset by it, but they are, because it's their addiction. It's like this isn't the same, and I don't think there's anything wrong with watching like pro wrestling or heck, even soap operas if that's somebody's thing. But you go to an old grandpa who likes to watch wrestling, and I remember my my grandfather, if you told him that wrestling was fake, it's not fake, it's not fake. If you tell a grandmother or something that, yeah, you maybe shouldn't watch so many soap operas, like they get, it's like, don't you take away my addiction, don't you take away my feel good. That's they wouldn't get so upset if there wasn't some truth to it. Sound Engraver, thank you, my dear, for $2. Got a great stream posted for tomorrow. Yeah, Sound Engraver streams Sunday. What's the time here? 10:08. Okay, I'm good. 5:45. Yeah, okay. Yeah, she changes up the time sometime. 5:45. So that's yeah, you can check out Sound Engraver tomorrow. But we're not done here yet. I just wanted to make sure I got through the super chats there, so no one slipped through. If you did super chat me and I missed it, let me know, tag me or whatever, and I'll go back and get that. Yet another one. It's gonna pop in here. Matthew Flynn, thank you so much, dude. 20 pounds, dang. Really appreciate that, Matthew Flynn. Thank you. I'm not going to try and say gladiator of, because I always say it wrong. I usually say Kaun. Let's say Kaun, gladiator of Kaun. I'm going to say that, or maybe I'll just say Matthew Flynn, because you'll yell at me. Thank you for the super chat. So I'm trying to figure out which 40K Space Marine Legion you would like. Okay, yeah, so Warhammer 40K. Okay. I know about it, but I've never really read a story, never really watched it or anything, or game, novel, whatever. So you're trying to figure out which, so I guess there's a Space Marine Legion. That's one line of the Warhammer 40K stories. Okay, so a sci-fi story. You're trying to figure out what Space Marine Legion I would like. You're thinking Dark Angels and Blood Angels is a maybe. Space Wolves and Salamanders is probably more your style. I can give you more information if you want. I mean, Space Wolves sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you've got my email. I put my email in some videos. I kind of stopped after a while, but thing is about, and this is just me when it comes to recommendations, you can always recommend something to me. Oh, Khan, Gladiator of Khan, like the anime. Okay, so just Khan or Kaon. Oh, see, you convinced him. You're Kaon. Yeah, Kaon. Okay, Gladiator of Kaon. I learned it, Matthew Flynn. There you go. Okay, Gladiator of Kaon. Yeah, here's the thing with me when it comes to when it comes to recommendations. Okay, someone recommend, hey, I think you'd like that. Cool. The second they recommend, as soon as they recommend it a second time, I'm that less likely to actually ever watch it, because then I start to feel like someone's badgering me about it. And it's not that I don't think I might enjoy this or that, but you got limited time to watch stuff or read stuff. I've been trying to really fit a lot of reading into my time too, to do these comic analyses that I'm doing now. There are people who, and I'm not saying you haven't done this, Matthew Flynn. My goodness, no, I'm not saying you here by any means. I'm interested in you piqued my interest with space wolves and salamanders and whatnot. That sounds pretty interesting, so I'm gonna have to check that out, or at least look into it a little bit. But people on my channel have said, "Hey, Prof, have you heard about this or this?" And I'm like, "Oh no, yeah, maybe it sounds interesting, maybe it doesn't." And then the next stream, "Have you watched this yet?" No. Look, I'm busy. 2 streams later, "I still want you to watch this." Okay, well now I'm never going to watch that. It's just kind of like, oh, that's why I still have not watched Berserk. And probably be 10 years of silence from Berserk fans before I ever try and pick it up, just because it's so annoying. Samuel Proctor says, "What if I recommended you a show that has an aspirational main character?" I mean, anybody you can always name something once. I do like those kind of things. This actually brings up another topic. You guys know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, that I was looking for some shows to watch, because I don't like to binge watch. I think that's a problem with our culture today. I think that so many wonderful shows and series that took, anywhere between 5 and 10 years to air are just being wasted on the binge watching phenomena that we have today. And I think a lot of the new series that come out, and released at once or whatever, or even, once a week or something, people binge them. And I just don't think people are processing and experiencing story the way they should be, the way that's really helpful and useful anymore, because they just binge it all, and you can't really savor it. You can't really take it in. You can't really think about it and process it if you're just, got to watch the next episode to find out what happens, So I like to have a series that I can just watch, at the very most, maybe an episode a night. And I was watching Grimm, and it started out really strong. It had some issues towards I think it was like the 5th-ish season or something. I'm on the last half season now, and it's gotten back on track, but I still can't help but to wonder what it could have been if it didn't have a couple things that I think were, getting into those pandering years a little bit there. I don't know. But as I'm close to the end, I thought, I got to get something. It's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm watching old stuff from now on. I'm sick to death of new series. Somebody's like, "Oh, have you watched that show, The 100?" I don't care. Is it made recently? Then I don't care. I just don't. Not that I'll never see a movie or something like that, if it happens to slip by the nonsense and is good. But I started watching X-Files again. And I'd never really sat down and watched X-Files straight all the way through. The 90s were my teen years, and I just didn't watch it all the way through. I've seen episodes here and there. I know the gist of it, but I started watching it just episode by episode, and I don't care how old it looks. I love that it looks like it was shot in 93 when the first season 1 came out. I love that. That's good. That's where you go for stories. Of course, this or that piece of media might be able to slip through nowadays, but really good storytelling, you've got to go back into the past. The industry today just isn't conducive to good storytelling anymore. Yes, things can happen, like the Guardians of the Galaxy game, or this or that movie might come through. Maybe the Kong Godzilla movie will be good, who knows? But that's just not where you need to go or rely on for good stories. You've got to go to the classics. And don't tell me that you've watched everything there is to watch. That's baloney. There's so many things out there that you haven't read or watched yet. And or you've just watched a little bit, like me with X-Files, Go check it out. That's where good stories are. Let's see. Got some super chats here. Don't want to miss these before they go away. Kaon. I'm going to remember that, Matthew Flynn. Gladiator of Kaon. Nathaniel Lisbell, you're the one that told me that. You have to tell me how to pronounce your name, too, because I think you mentioned that I think Sound Engraver was saying it wrong, and she said the same way I did. So, Studio Super, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. It said, "Are there any films that you'll check out this year?" So far, I haven't seen anything that is. I haven't really looked into it. Okay, but I haven't seen anything that looks bad about the Godzilla King Kong movie. So sure, I'll probably check that out. Um, I'm still willing, and this rankles some people's feathers because they don't bother hearing me out. I'm still willing to check out the Ghostbusters movie because I look at that as an alternate universe, and I think Ghostbusters as a franchise, you could only have made a sequel as an alternate universe. Like, too much time had passed. There's no way that they could have made a proper end cap trilogy to the first two movies because too much time had passed. But the fact that they actually retconned a woke film to make something more in line with the original themes and whatnot, I think was great. And some people said that movie was woke. Like, wow, how was that movie woke? Just because they had a granddaughter? I mean, I don't really see that. So yeah, I like that. I might go see that one. I might wait until it comes out for a bit and see some what people say about it or not. I don't know. I just really don't care about going to the theater. I hate the theater experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a big screen. I love the classic movie theater experience. But the average person in society today doesn't know how to behave like a human being in a movie theater. So it's just not for me. I don't have a need to watch things right as they come out. There are some quiet little country theaters around here that you can slip in on a matinee sometimes, but I haven't been to a movie theater since. Oh, it was actually, I did go see this movie about Saint Faustina, the Divine Mercy, Chaplet and Devotion. It was this documentary / movie or whatever from an independent filmmaker. It was really good. I saw that. It was before 2020, I think. Like 2019 maybe. That was the last time I was in a movie theater, believe it or not, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. But good question. Eldritch fan, hey, good to see you. I was wondering where you were. Thank you for $4.99. Says starting to hate the term content and how stories are something we consume. Also, guilty as charged for the Prism rewrite of the Star Wars. I forgot about that. Hey, no, you're not the only one, Eldritch fan. Believe me, you're not the only one. But no, are you the one that because you might have used a different name, Eldritch fan. Were you the one that emailed my Iconicast podcast email about this concept of content and consume? Because you are right. I was looking at that email, and it took me a while to think about it. And if you're the one that emailed me, I'll respond to this now. But it was really good concept. But it was, we're starting to, instead of stories, instead of pieces of art, instead of a film, instead of a television series, people call it content today. And instead of, even like the industry itself, and not across the board, but it's still out there. And instead of customers, instead of people that they have a duty to please, a responsibility to, they're consumers, and that's, to be a consumer. I mean, it has a history of, like in the economy, okay, your consumer driven economy and stuff like that. But to call your audience or your customers consumers is kind of degrading, I think. Yeah, in some sense, you consume a movie if you watch it, in a figurative sense. But I think that word consume now has just gotten to gimme, binge, binge. Whereas really taking in a film, I think it's let's appreciate it. Let's process it and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know if you're that one. I'm sure you've answered in the chat by now, but I'm just not there. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Studio 96 Films, thank you for the super chat there. $9.99. Thank you so much. So I've been watching the Monarch show on Apple TV Plus. It's pretty good so far. It's connected to the Monsterverse. That's good to hear. I don't know anything about that except that Al was telling me about it. And when Al says something is good, that doesn't really mean much to me because Al does not have any of the what's the word I'm looking for? The scruples that I have when it comes to watching new content. but that's good to hear. I'd like to look into more of that and hear that for more, because if I really love that Monsterverse so far. I mean, I love the first Godzilla one they did in 2014 or whatever. I thought that was great. Now this is coming from me, who's never really been a classic Toho Godzilla fan. I don't hate it. I'm nothing against it. It's just never really been something that appealed to me automatically. But I love the human themes that are really in this Monarch style Monsterverse that's come out. Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of Monsters. I even like the Kong versus Godzilla versus Kong. I mean, yeah, there's always some choices they made here or there. You're like, oh, I wish they would have done this or that. But in general, I thought it was quite good. So I'm looking forward to the new movie. But it's nice to hear that Monarch movie. It's almost too good to be true. It's hard to believe that a television show, especially on Apple TV, actually doesn't have any woke nonsense in it or is good. I mean, I'm not calling you a liar by any means, Studio 96 Films. I'm just kind of voicing out my process here. So it's good to hear that, though. I'd like to look into that a little bit more, maybe, because I don't know anything about it. I haven't watched anything or to do with it. Abysmal Dragon Slayer, thank you so much for the $5. Said salamanders and space wolves are my two favorite legions, followed by space sharks. I have to confess that Tau are my favorite 40k faction, though. That's cool. You're speaking Greek to me because I don't know anything about the 40k stuff. Maybe it's not. Maybe space wolves. I'm thinking like a werewolf in space. Maybe that's not what I'm supposed to be thinking. Maybe these are just names of legions or teams or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people love Warhammer 40k. I'm not against Warhammer 40k at all. I just never found an entry point or whatever, or haven't seen something that really appealed to me to start on, but again, nothing against it at all. And plus too, like I wish I was at a place in life where I was legitimately searching for something to watch. If only I had a good story I could read or watch. But I'm forever, and I don't see it ending anytime soon, I'm to the place where if only I had more time to watch the stacks of movies I've got on my to watch list or read the stacks of books I've got on my to read list, that's what that's where I am right now. But good to know that you love it there, and brought some more points around or content around for me to think about it there. Studio Super, thank you for the $9.99. Said I'm not that big on binge either, which is why I'm not as big on some anime as I should be. How some of the stories go, it feels sequel baiting. At the end of that, keeps going each episode. I do get that. That is a problem with sequential or not sequential, episodic writing in general. It's just something that J.J. Abrams is terrible about. He really introduced that to culture horribly. Also, like the old 24 series. You can still have good stories with this kind of thing, but that sense of like, gotta hook them for the next. Yeah, you do in sort of episodic television. That's kind of the nature of the beast to a certain degree, but you can, as you're saying, you can write to that and be devoid of substance. And I use Lost as the example for that. I don't care if you actually love the ending of Lost. That's fine. I never watched Lost, so I don't care about it one way or the other. But the fact is, it pissed a lot of people off. Battlestar Galactica pissed a lot of people off. People that 100% gave their souls to that show, and the hooks at the end of each episode, and but there's this mystery box, and what's going to go on with this, and what's going to go on with this. And you get some shows like that, and when they finally put a bow on it at the end and wrap it up, you realize you guys didn't really know where you were going at the start of this, did you? You just like trying to clean things up now. You were just writing to the next cliffhanger. And that's really garbage writing. That's really garbage storytelling when a series does that. I'm not necessarily saying that about Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica felt like that to me, so I stopped watching it. Just didn't have any interest in it. But I never even watched it to the end, so I can't definitively say that was the case about that or Lost. But it's just these are examples that I hear people talk about. In terms of anime, there is that sense of they do have the cliffhangers. I thought that was not. I'm no anime expert. I came to anime rather late in my life, but I thought that was just kind of par for the course. Like that was just always part of that. I don't know. I've gotten really good and well disciplined though that I can watch just an episode or two. I mean, I loved My Hero Academia and Naruto so much that I still haven't finished them. I'm still not even current on My Hero Academia because I don't want it to be over. I want to be able to watch, an episode here, and this week I'll hit it hard, and then I just won't worry about it for a little while to let it still be there for me when I want to come back to it. Again, this is going with somebody who just has such a busy schedule. I'm not sitting around if only I had something to watch, by any means. So yeah, I hear what you're saying though. Darth Enigma said, I love watching shows and movies, old shows and movies. Yeah. Mr. D-Man 21, I don't want to watch any movies this year. A waste of time and money. Hey, I hear you. I hear you. Samuel Proctor said, I watched I, Claudius last November. Just imagine a young Patrick Stewart with full curly hair and Roman armor. That show, I, Claudius, that is, for one of those kind of like BBC daytime drama things, it's actually really, really well done. The direction, I can't remember. Did that, I, Claudius, did it really, how much did it take from Robert Graves? I forget. But I've heard a lot of good things about that. That's cool to hear. Owen Lister said, one movie that's coming that I'm interested in is a movie called The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, starring Henry Cavill, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie. Never heard of that one. Interesting name, though. Mr. D-Man said, Ghostbusters Afterlife wasn't woke, just boring. Yeah, I mean, I don't... some people get mad when I say that I watched and liked Afterlife. I'm like, dude, I don't care. I mean, it's not going to bother me if they never made another one. It was just something where, Ghostbusters in particular, you had the first movie, then you had the real Ghostbusters cartoon, which was a totally different continuity. Then you had Ghostbusters 2, which was still part of the main movie continuity, but you had the comics start out, and then you had the comics take off in a different direction, and then you had the real Ghostbusters comics, and you had the role-playing game with Ghostbusters International. Then you had the wonderful, what I think of as the real ending of the trilogy was the video game that came out in the 2000 teens, was it? The one with the original cast coming back that was actually written by Aykroyd and, and all of that. That was wonderful, but that's another continuity. So by the time, Afterlife came around, you'd had so many different really cool continuities branching off from this idea that I didn't have trouble personally seeing this as just another example. And it didn't do anything to spit on the characters or anything. I mean, maybe you could argue it did tick me off a little bit, that the idea of there being a divide between Egon and them. That's one of the things that really does make it it's firmly an alternate universe thing for myself. But like I said, I don't care if people hate it. It doesn't bother me. It's not like one of those things like, this movie was amazing, guys. You are idiots for not liking it. No, some people treat me like I've said that. Like, can't believe you hypocrite. It's like, what? Andre Hernandez, thank you again for the $5. Said, how do you live your day-to-day life with these new terms and still stay sane? I live in California, and I am uncomfortable with this new terminology. Man, I hear you. You mean like content consumed, that kind of stuff, or like some of the woke content or woke terminology? I refuse to use it. When it comes to woke terminology, I refuse to use it. Even in the academic world, I refuse to do it. Now, I'm really lucky with how I teach. I'm kind of at a place in how I teach, the avenue and context of it, that no one really cares, and it's not something that really comes to the forefront all that often. But I tell Sound Engraver all the time, I'm definitely, like, in 10 years or so, I'm going to have to be in a different career or a different income path or something, because this isn't going to work. The way the writing's on the wall with the academic world, it's sad. Kennergy Driver said, Ghostbusters Afterlife was like Ghostbusters 2, a boring movie that only had one or two memorable moments. I mean, yeah, I remember people saying Ghostbusters 2, they didn't like that back in the day. I liked it, but yeah, it's just one of those franchises. Ghostbusters is kind of like, I'm trying to think if there are any other franchises like that, where it's just almost from the beginning, so many different divergent paths opened up in terms of continuity. I don't know. Let's see. Did I miss anything? I think I got, oops, new comments. Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's. Oh, I did miss a super chat here. Let me see if that was the last one, though. Oh, missed quite a few. Sorry, guys. Never mind. I see you. Let me go back to, sorry, guys. I want to be able to highlight it here, which I need to use StreamYard for. StreamYard keeps jumping around. All right, so Andre Hernandez was the last one I read. Okay, there we go. Next up was Eldritch Fan. Thank you very much. Said, I can't find your iconic podcast on Apple or Amazon. I haven't put it on Apple yet because there were some extra hoops you had to jump through that I need to do. I did. I put it on Podbean, and they told me it was on Amazon. I'll double check that. Thanks for letting me know. I think you put a comment about that too. So I do need to check on that, Eldritch Fan. Thank you for bringing that to my attention again. And I do need to go through the hoops and just get it on iTunes because, you know, if you're doing a podcast, it's got to be on iTunes, you know, even if I'm not necessarily an Apple user myself. So, yeah, thanks for letting me know that. Appreciate it. Matthew Flynn, the gladiator of Kaon, says, space wolves are afflicted with the curse of the Wolfen. Oh, okay. Which is basically space werewolves. So spot on. Good. Excellent. Hey, that actually really interests me. Okay. Because I like werewolf stories. So that you might have, darn it, you might have hooked me on some Warhammer 40K thing. I might have to go look up 40K space wolves. You did it. You did it. Eldritch Fan for $1.99 said X-Files last season and ending was pretty lame. I had heard that. Fan Man is a huge X-Files guy. And I told him and Big Al that, hey, I finally started watching X-Files from the beginning because, to be honest, I just really haven't seen all that many episodes. And I said, I fully expect Al to shame me. He's going to geek shame me. And I fully expect Fan Man to swoop in and say, watch season 1 through season this, and then skip that, but then watch this, and then do this. You know, that geek tendency. Like, I got to tell you how to experience this. You know, he didn't, though. He didn't. To his credit, he did not. But I do think I remember hearing him say something about some of the ending stuff he didn't like about it or whatever. It'll take me a long time to get through it. I mean, a long time. Because I don't binge, you know, I watch like episode a night or something like that. And that show was on forever. Kennergy Driver says, do you have a PS5 or gaming PC? Because you should play Final Fantasy 16, peak masculinity and epic open world fantasy, a story akin to the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. Don't have a PS5. They just haven't given me a reason to buy one. None of the exclusive games come out. I do have a little gaming PC that I used to play a lot of older games, but it would run a new game. So Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, I don't really follow the Final Fantasy franchise as much. Sound Engraver likes a lot of the early ones. I'll check that out though. I do like open world. I love that kind of open world fantasy stories, you know, like The Witcher, stuff like that. Red Dead, and yeah, I'll check that out. All right, gonna have to get off of here in a few moments, but a few more comments here. Super chats. Thank you for Andre Hernandez. How could you not miss the theater experience, Prof? Don't you miss the sound of someone opening Jolly Ranchers? You know, that wasn't the thing that bothered me so much. I mean, that's kind of mildly annoying. Now, Sound Engraver hates that. Yeah, at church, we sit in a certain place sometimes in church where these old ladies, and they gotta crinkle, 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 open their hard candies, and then she hates mouth noises, so they're behind us, you know, sucking on their hard candies and stuff. That didn't bother me so much. It was just the blatant rudeness. Like, let me just talk to my friend through this whole movie, or that stupid, like, I gotta react audibly to the movie. Like, you know, no one wants to hear that. You're not funny. Shut up. And then of course, like, people on their phones. I mean, I just could not handle it. It grates on me. It kills the experience for me. But yeah, I mean, if the Jolly Ranchers were loud enough, that would bother me too. Thank you there. Let's see. Make sure I haven't missed anything before I start wrapping things up here. Oh, there's one I missed. Studio Super. Thank you for the super chat there. Said $4.99. It's the sad state of life. The wokies keep coming up with the new meaningless terms, yet the list of things we are allowed to say keeps getting shorter. That's a good way to sum it up. It really is. Yeah. Don't say this, say this now, say this now, and all this kind of stuff. And it is like I said before, they weaponize the language. It's ridiculous. And it's how are you considered some subversive villain for saying that there's a difference between men and women? Sorry, that was kind of a thing that people just believed forever. you don't get to change it now because of your sociology or whatever, you know. That's just one of many examples, though. Andre Hernandez, thank you very much there. Said, are you ever going to stream Heroic Inspirations again? Do you mean do you mean Inspiration of Heroes or Heroic Inspirations? Because I was doing the videos, Heroic Inspirations, which were the little videos I produced about the inspiration we can draw from this or that superhero stories, and those were called Heroic Inspirations. I think what you're talking about is what was it called? I forget what I called it. Was it Inspiration of Heroes that I called it? I think I called it something different, but that was when I had people on and I let them talk about what heroes inspired them in their life. So you could get some stories, you know. That was a lot of fun. The problem with that was this, and I'll be honest, and I can be honest here since you brought up Chad Andre Hernandez, because I've never ever remember you saying anything like this. The problem was that I was giving people a showcase and a platform to talk about their favorite heroes and how they inspired them. Okay, obviously, anybody who loves heroes is going to kind of want that. Is going to want to be able to do that naturally, perfectly natural. Okay, but the problem was that everybody started asking me, "Hey, can I come on and do that? Hey, can I come on and do that? Hey, can I come on? Hey, can I come on?" And I'm nice, so I don't just want to be like, no, you know, but I'm very limited time. And I actually ran into where people would just start to email me like, and then it's like, well, you said I could come on. It's like, did I say you could come on? I think what I probably said was, hey, you know, I'll see what happens. Yeah, maybe we'll work you in there sometime or whatever. Trying to be nice and trying not to be a jerk and just say, no, I don't want you on my channel. But it's just like, look, with a lot of people, it's like, I look, chances are you're probably never going to be on this. Okay. I've such limited time and energy. And, but people, then I had a couple instances where one guy got straight up mad at me. He was like, I was going to come on your channel and we were going to be friends. And I'm like, whoa, bro. So it's just kind of like, it brought out the crazies was the problem. I like the concept. I like the platform. You know, I like the idea of doing it. And I might do it again one day, but man, it brought out some crazies. Just you know, it's like, hey guys, this is my channel. I'll invite you if I want you on. Stop telling me you want to be on and demanding it and stuff. You know, it got weird. It got weird. All right. Well, that is speaking of limited energy and all of that, I think we're at a good place to wrap this up. Really appreciated you guys hanging out tonight. It was a lot of fun chatting about this. We'll tell you some things coming up. A lot of people seem to like those comic book analyses that I've been doing. That's great. I'm going to keep up with those. I was going through the Cyberfrog. I've got going through the Cyberfrog comics here. I wanted to do the review of Wrecked Planet. Now I have Wrecked Planet, but I realized that kind of have to do, I can't really delve into what the themes and everything of Wrecked Planet if I don't talk about first Heartsick Horror, because this really, especially with Heather Swain's psychology, everything in Wrecked Planet is kind of built on this. So that's coming. I'm going to try to record that tomorrow, actually. But I also, since John Malin is dropping the campaign for the next volume of his Graveyard Shift, I'm way behind on my Graveyard Shift reading, but I did get and review back in the day the volume 1. So I think I might do a literary analysis of this maybe sometime this week to kind of coincide with his campaign that's opening there. And some people have been asking me, are you just doing indie comics? Or are you going to do some classic Marvel and DC? And yeah, no, I'd love to do that. Again, it's just got to be something that my interest kind of follows me in. I did a really cool analysis, I thought it was cool anyway, of Superman for All Seasons back in the day. So I'd like to do some stuff like that too. I'm just kind of having fun with these, and people seem to like it. So I'll cut out some portions of tonight's video and make it its own video as well. And yeah, just keep doing that. We'll see how it goes. The channel kind of spiked up a little bit. Ethan Van Sciver actually did a, I always hesitate to say EFAP because EFAP, there's enough of a middle school boy in me that laughs at the word FAP and EFAP. So it's just weird. Like, hey, so-and-so EFAP'd me on their channel. It's like, oh, no, stop. I know it's an acronym, every frame of I get it, but it just EFAP, just I giggle every time I hear that said. But anyway, he did show my reviews of his Cyberfrog Blood Honey on his channel, which was great. It was wonderful to see. He was super nice. and he really liked what I was saying, and he wants to see how it might review Wreck Planet. But his chat, he showed my video, and his chat had never seen me, and immediately as soon as my video comes up on his chat, he's going, or the chat's going, dude, just get rid of that hairline. Come on, just shave your head. Stop hanging on to it. Blah, And I'm used to that. People, you guys on my channel, people have called me Professor Forehead. You can see some of the fan art people have done, like, dude, that forehead, whatever. That's something I'm used to. But man, they were ripping into it. So I super chatted him when he was done. I said, hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, Ethan. I said, oh, and your chat can pry my hairline from my cold, dead fingers. Yeah, it was fine. They weren't like mean about it. They were just, they're just doing what they do, especially on his kind of streams and stuff. And they were like, oh, good sport. It's all good. So yeah, it was fine. But I think that bumped my subscriptions a little bit. I never really paid much attention to it, but Sound Engraver is always like, hey, did you see this video did well, or your subscriptions are a little bit over this or that or whatever. So that was cool. So there might be a lot of new visitors and whatnot, but I'm going to keep these analyses coming because that's what I was doing at the time anyway, and keep this up. So there'll be more, another stream next Saturday night, another office hour stream, and some videos in between. Thank you guys for hanging out. Appreciate it. Check out Sound Engraver stream tomorrow. Sound Engraver loves my forehead. That's right. So Eldritch Fan said, rest your lofty brow. Yes, I shall go now and rest my lofty brow. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time. Can't even do the sign off.